Hello, Plain Herman.
Hello, Bongiwe.
Welcome. And I suppose tonight you've got your work cut out for you, right?
Definitely. Important night, important subject, consequential address by the president.
Yeah.
Some of the big takeaways, right? So we'll do it a bit different tonight. Some of the big takeaways that jumped out for me. Concerns about safety and security are real and deserves to be heard. He also says that we must be honest about the context in which these concerns arises. And the other part of it, and this is the balancing act, the commitment. We are committed to our international obligations. Now, Sophie, maybe I can bring you in with regards to this international obligations, with regards to how this message is likely to sit on the continent, because the president wasn't only addressing South Africans tonight. That message is probably resonating throughout the continent. How so?
Well, I think for those who were watching, I am sure the whole continent was watching. It might not be heads of state and government, but some officials in some countries, because South Africa is no small country. Yeah. This is a big country, the industrialized country, and it has always, post-1994, been a voice of reason on the continent and at the global stage. Now, when you see some signs that it is now losing that international image and fighting for human rights, because the problem here would be, much as the country, fellow South Africans are fighting for their rights, you can't violate other people's rights and international law and the obligations, as I pointed out. There are treaties that we signed, and Dr. Aaron Mzaledi, when he was Home Affairs, wanted to review some of these treaties because at times they are perhaps difficult in terms of implementation. And therefore, that's what they want to hear. What impact will the document on the table, as the president has pointed out, from Home Affairs in addressing these issues will affect their respective countries and their countries. But I think the president saying, as I pointed earlier on, Bongi, this matter at the AU, it shouldn't be about South Africa. It should be about what the continent is doing. Migration, many young people perished at the Mediterranean Sea.
Andy, I wonder how this will fit in terms of strategy. Reputation is key here, especially South Africa's reputation now on the continent. Sophie alluded to it earlier on with regards to the economic impact of this all and how South Africa can't be in isolation. We're not an island. We need our neighbors to function, right? But I wonder, in terms of reputation, are we being hurt more by illegal immigration or protests against illegal immigration?
Blaine, this is a dance with the lion. The president is doing the cha-cha-cha with the lion. So is the whole country. In that space of dancing with the lion, we see the protests and the protesters hurting us more, in that those who are standing outside of the lion's den actually think that whatever the president says is counteracted or will be counteracted by those who are standing on the outside. I illustrated earlier on Wednesday or Thursday, after the Nat Joint address that gave the march, that gave the line of march, there was a march from Tsakani to the police station, indicating that line of march from the Nat Joint address by the chairperson, Lieutenant General Tibelo Musikidi, will not deter us from moving on or marching on. So it answers your question directly by saying we hope that all those who have commented on this subject now apply a sober mind in helping us meaning the whole country and the lion, to dance better with the lion, the continent amongst others. United Nations, as they issued out the statement, we have got a real job to guide the president through the dancing with the lion, as it were.
Andy Mashaile, Sophie Mokoena, Bongiwe Zwane, thank you so much. We'll take it from here.
Thank you, sir.
It is no doubt a packed show tonight. We have a live studio audience tonight who will be giving us their real-time reaction to the president's address. We will hear from them shortly. President Cyril Ramaphosa now has addressed the nation on government's approach to illegal migration and the recent rise in protests against undocumented immigrants. The address comes amid growing public concern over immigration, border management, and of course tensions within communities in several parts of this country. The president's remarks are expected to shape the national conversation on these issues in the days ahead as South Africa reflects on the way forward. It brings us to the question of the week, and we're asking you, what is your reaction to the president's address on migration? Simple question. Often will come with complicated answers. We welcome that. Also, South Africa opens its World Cup campaign away from home against Mexico this week in front of a passionate Mexican crowd and under the bright lights of the tournament's opening match. Expectations are no doubt high. Emotions are running even higher. And millions of South Africans are going to be watching this one closely, hoping their team can rise to the occasion. We'll have that discussion in a short while as well. Share your thoughts with us at SABC News_TV. Now, let's get that reaction for you with regards to the president's address on immigration. Let's speak to our audience here who have gathered. Thank you very much indeed for coming on a Sunday night. Your name, where you from, and what's your reaction to the president's address?
My name is Dugi Savannah, and I am from down the street. Right. And my reaction, one of the things that the president said is he wants us to get into a space where people move by choice and not by desperation. I can't really take the president seriously because when he was chair of the African Union and Nigerian youth were protesting, he actually said nothing, and many were killed during the NSAS protests. He has said nothing when Zimbabwean Lives Matter have happened. He has said nothing against his peers when we've seen what has happened in Kenya when youth have been killed. So if he is in fact serious, he needs to talk to his fellow brothers who are presidents. He has said nothing when people got killed in Tanzania fighting against the elections. So additionally, the other thing that takes me aback is the fact that this issue of migration just keeps looking at our brothers and sisters on the continent. Nobody is talking about a gentleman in Cape Town who is from Europe, who's talking about Cape independence and making Cape Town another Orania. Why are we not outraged about the fact that South Africans can no longer afford to buy accommodation in Cape Town?
The president did say that our laws, the immigration laws, need some work, right? There's a lot of loopholes here as well. It's fragmented. That's something that they're looking at. What's your name and what did you make of the president's address?
My name is Harmony Kikai Mudiba, and what I made out of the president's address is that he did make an effort to be balanced and fair in his response, in that he wants to make room for human dignity while at the same time accounting for the South African Constitution. And what I make of that is that although I do agree that having more digital solutions implemented, having more staff employed, having all those things is great and all, but the downside of that is that the centralized approach is currently not working for us as a country. We need to be able to acknowledge the grassroots level of the issue. So instead of looking at it as a political issue only, although that is valid, we also have to be able to look at it from a grassroots level. What are the people on the ground saying? How can we partner with the people on the ground in sorting out the issue? So I think instead of looking at it as a South African versus other African nationals issue, we need to look at it as fellow Africans who have a mutually beneficial relationship on both sides. Yeah. How do we both have the rights and the responsibilities for maintaining that relationship? And part of that is not only depending on the government and the staff that the government employs and the tech that the government implements, but also the government partnering with the people on the ground at a grassroots level on how can we prevent them from from having an outrage, because this is not starting now. It has been years of South Africans complaining about the issue. It has been years of people who genuinely seek asylum also being mistreated because of the people who are illegally in the country. So this needs to be sorted out from a grassroots level. The government needs to support the grassroots fora that are trying to deal with this issue, at the same time implementing methods of preventing violence against people and human dignity.
Migration is complicated, right? And the president said in so many words, trying to break down in a systematic way in terms of what government is actually trying to do in order to sort these issues out. There's the push and the pull factors as well. How did his message resonate with you?
My name is Somba Samaslake. I'm just coming from Soweto. My problem with President Ramaphosa is that he is reactive instead of being active. I mean, it cannot be that in 2026, it's when we talk about immigration. We've been having this immigration issue long time ago, but they started to talk about that thing right after there was intervention from the ground. So it means our government does not have a vision. If the government can have a vision, we cannot have this situation. Now it's like South Africa is led by the emotions of the people. Now it's a problem if you are led by emotions of the people. Now you wait for the people to react, and that's when you are going to start to act on something. So we are inviting anarchy, of which if you start to invite anarchy, the country is going to have a problem. We're going to have a government that is going to be overthrown by the people.
So the president did say, though, that in terms of, to the point of work being done so far, they stopped about, 450,000 people this year alone from entering the country. Does that not give you hope?
It does give me hope, but I'm having a problem because I was doing my research looking at the NPA, the National, what is this one?
Prosecutor.
Yes. This thing, the borders.
The BMA.
Yeah,
the BMA.
I'm sorry, BMA. So they have BMA, but it is not well capacitated. I mean, there are no soldiers deployed to safeguard our country. It is not funded fully to work, because it cannot happen for it to work properly. For it to be viable, it needs money. So the government is not funding that. So it's a problem. So it's like we're fighting a losing battle.
Okay. Your full name and where you're from? How did the message of the president resonate with you?
My name is Weisman Hamilton. I'm from the Marxist Workers' Party, which is South African affiliate of the Committee for Workers International, and I'm from El Dorado Park. My reaction to the president's speech is that I think it represents one of the most shameful levels of degeneration that the ANC has been descending towards since it came to power in 1994. And the reason I'm saying so is that what he has just done is to give the government's official blessing to the campaign of xenophobia, which is based on lies, misrepresentation of the facts, and a deliberate, and this is the most important thing, to deflect attention from this government of neoliberal capitalist unity and the masters that it serves, the capitalist class, for the disastrous levels of socio-economic crisis in this country. One of the first things this government did, the ANC on its own at the time, by the way, because the Nats left very shortly after that fake GNU was created the first time, was to agree to open the borders of the capital markets. They relaxed exchange control regulations, the consequence of which, that 3.1 trillion rands has left the country with the permission of this government. They have enriched the capitalist class and impoverished the working class majority to the point where the World Bank has classified South Africa as the most unequal society in the world. They also reduced corporate tax, by the way, from 52% at that time to 26% today, on the promise, let me finish this point, on the promise that they would invest. What is the level of investment in the economy today? It's at the same level as it was in 1946. 32% of industry is lying idle. To plug the gap of the money that they had lost by donating billions to big business, they borrowed on the domestic and financial money markets, the mashonisa. And they are borrowing at the rate of 2.5 billion per day.
So how would you have wanted the president to address this? Because he's come out and now given us almost a plan, a map in order for South Africans to understand how government is tackling this immigration issue. How would you have seen this better executed?
Well, unfortunately, there isn't one, but if there had been a mass workers' party built on a socialist program that speaks for the working class who are politically disenfranchised in this country, we'd have called upon him to resign and for that mass workers' party to take charge, nationalize the commanding heights of the economy under workers' control, and we would be in a position on such a program to reduce the problem of unemployment, reduce the working week, reduce the working day, and all the profits that are being siphoned out of the country. I mean, SARS, for example, appointed Judge Dennis Davies to investigate the phenomenon of illicit capital flows. He found that the amount of money conservatively estimated that is being stolen by big business, by the multinational corporations, the 2,000 that are present here, the country loses 400 billion per annum. And the top 10%.
Controls need to be tightened, yeah.
No,
We'll get to that in a short while. One of the things that the president did mention as well is that corruption that eats away at the hope of a better future in South Africa needs to be handled, especially corruption as it relates to migration issues. How are we going to get to the bottom of that? Let's bring in Minister of Justice Mameloko Kubai, who's joining us now. Minister, good to have you on the program. The marching orders given by the president, how did that sit with you?
Thank you very much. Good evening to your viewers as well. I do think that President has addressed comprehensively quite a number of issues that actually assist the fact that many people, and even in our experience, when people come into the borders, for example, whether you talk about Bay Bridge or Limpopo border, and they come to the inner city because they move from the border to inland so that they can apply for asylum seekers in the between. That's how we end up with actually illegal foreign nationals, because those who do not qualify can end up saying, I'm going to seek for asylum seeking papers, and therefore they don't go back. So the movement of that back to the border gates is quite welcomed. It will assist in dealing with it. The second area is around the TRNs, the traffic regulation numbers, which majority of foreign nationals are utilizing them in the country in terms of identity documents. So they can open bank accounts, they can operate, while they do not have to use that together with a passport or any documentation. Bringing that to an end will assist us to be able to track those who are here illegally and be able to deport them. Right. The third point that I want to emphasize is the issue of the dedicated courts. Currently, you can arrest and then you find that they are going to be processed the following day or 2 days after. So with a dedicated court, what is being hoped is that they would be processed within the same day and be deported, so that the resources of the country can be remain and protected and sustained for the country itself. So I just wanted to flag those, but there are quite a number of areas that he has spoken to.
One of the areas was the laws itself as it relates to immigrations. He says that there are loopholes in terms of these laws, and the laws are a bit fragmented. Which laws needs to be tightened in your point of view?
Immigration Act needs to be reviewed, as the white paper has been issued. Now that would be able to emphasize. Actually, as well, the small business development bill that has been issued will be anchored by immigration laws, so that you are able to say these are the people can trade at what area and all that enforcement of those. Similarly, in municipalities, Minister Hlabisa issued regulations or bylaws that all municipalities must be able to pass in order to be able to enforce. And one of the issues that we want to do as the Department of Justice is to re-establish across the country the municipal courts that will assist and support the municipalities in terms of enforcement of the bylaws.
Minister, did we lose you?
Will be able to. Sorry.
All right.
Did you?
Yeah, we lost you briefly, but you back now.
My apologies.
Yeah.
My apologies about that. So it was the issue around municipal courts that will assist in terms of management of bylaws in municipalities. And in this area, it's particularly around small businesses. Minister Ndabeni has established Spaza Shop Support Fund for South African Spaza shops so that they are able to compete and they are able to sustain themselves. So those are some of the areas that we're looking at. But broadly again, the review of in terms of the criminal procedure Act that will assist us in this area. We have requested which another area, the SADC protocol to be signed and ascended into what is ratification of that, so that correctional services can actually exchange prisoners between South Africa and countries. Wow. Where we have about 12,000 of prisoners in our country, prisons that would be able to serve their prison in their own countries.
Another strong theme from the president's address was the issue of tackling corruption. There needs to be this integrated approach, interdepartmental approach along the lines of the criminal justice system in order to tackle this better. What plans are in place to do just that?
You would have started to see in the few days what is being done at the ports of entry. There is a team that has been put together between SARS, BMA, police that is currently now looking at illicit activities on the borders to be able to protect South Africa. And that's why you would have seen even previously, either it's in the border in terms of the port, not the port this week, in terms of the drugs that were coming through. It's a team that is joined between SARS and others. We call it illicit fighting illicit economy team has been established and it's doing its work. It's already what we are starting to see the results. Similarly, they would have done at the border where last few days ago, a few weeks ago, they would have been able to intercept the issues of the drugs that were coming into the country. So those teams will assist us in terms of dealing. So we're now saying let it be joint operations so that there is not one area that is only dealing with the work, so that we can stop the corruption that we sometimes see. But again, the work that has been done by your ISIUs and other law enforcement agencies, we are saying that those reports must be implemented. We must start seeing prosecutions so that it can help to deter the activities, corruption that happens. So we are working together, law enforcement, in terms of a coordinated. That's why President would have spoken about prof joints, provincial joints and national joint operation commands that work jointly to be able to deal with the work, the issues that we deal with.
Yeah. All right, let's leave it there. Minister of Justice, Mamoloko Kubai, thank you so much indeed for your time tonight, giving us her take, her reaction on the President's address. Important, no doubt, steps being taken in order to tackle illegal immigration. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, shifting focus a bit. Bafana opening game this week against Mexico, in Mexico. What's in store for them? We'll find out next. Welcome back. You're watching It's Topical. I just want to wrap up our conversation around the immigration issue. The president addressing the nation tonight, outlining a number of points in terms of the plan the government has to tackle illegal immigration. We've got a live audience here as well, reacting in real time. Let's bring in one of them and get me your reaction to the president's address on immigration.
Thanks, Amen, and thanks to the viewers. For me, when I reflect to the State of Nation address of the President, I felt that the President is not bold enough. Why I'm saying that, with the current status that is taking place, especially with the issue of illegal immigrant, I was expecting him to say, he will say, I want all my law enforcement to be on the ground and arrest everybody who doesn't have a document and those who are illegal in our country. And another thing that...
he did mention that, though, that there is going to be an enforcement.
No, that is not enough. I wanted to say to him, saying with immediate effect from tomorrow, because this issue is a tension now. And this issue is not the issue that started today. If I can remind women, I think 3 or 4 years back, President Ramaphosa spoke about illegal immigrant. But he left that issue up until today. We had organization like Operation Tudula started in 2021, which I was a national organizer. this issue of immigration, it was on the picture. Till now, there's much and much. He's intensifying it. So if this issue was tackled back then, we wouldn't have an issue. And one thing that I've heard about him is always talking about the obligation of the international obligation. What is so difficult for our country to withdraw from the Convention of 1951 and its protocol of 1967 if always will be binded by the what you call the obligation, the international obligation? So we need to reconsider that as South African, because it seems that these obligations are undermining our sovereignty and people's welfare.
Multilateral institutions are key for countries to develop in terms of economies as well. Let me get your take as well. Your name and with regards to the President's address?
My name is Cornelius Madiba. And my thing is, look, if Much and Much did not take the stand which they took now, we'd probably still be having a government that's not interested. Now the main thing which makes them to come on board like this is because Much and Much took a stand and actually made the country shake. So we have had the same things as he was talking about Dudula now. It was in the forefront, I don't know for how long. Right. So now they're coming up with the same things. I agree with him that it's important that the president should have said something more stronger than just that we are trying to move our refugee camps to next to border posts, whatnot. Something more action, right. You know, like we want people to be on the ground now. We want people to go hand in hand with Much and Much to see how we can assist, something that ordinary South Africans can relate with.
It's an ongoing conversation. Reactions are ongoing as well. We will get more reaction with regards to the President's address in the bulletins to come, but we need to take another quick break. When we come back, I promise, Bafana on the menu. Stay with us.
The journey has officially begun. South Africa, it's time to rally behind our boys as they take on the world stage. Morning Live, in partnership with McDonald's, is bringing the ultimate World Cup kickoff spirit straight to you live on Tuesday, the 9th of June at McDonald's Sandton Gate.
Yep, the World Cup is on hand. South Africa taking on Mexico this week as they kick off the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Let's get straight into it. Introduce my guest. Shaun Bryce Spears is SABC News U.S. correspondent. He's joining us live. Gloria Brown, SABC Sports commentator, is with us as well. And Kanyiso Chwaku is News 24 Sports senior reporter and SABC Sports analyst and commentator. Thank you very much indeed. The gang's all here, no doubt. Showing vibe in the U.S. currently in the build-up, just days before that opening whistle. Describe it for us.
Look, this is a historic World Cup in so many ways, Blaine, in terms of the fact that it's the first time that three countries are co-hosting the World Cup, the men's FIFA World Cup, for the very first time. So just think about the logistical apparatus that goes into something like that. 48 teams, the first time we've had 48, up from 32 in the last tournament, 16 host cities. And just think about the logistics around that, right? The base camps, the security, the transport logistics. If you're the Iranian team, you have to fly to the United States on match day because there are visa issues around that. Think about the geopolitics of the day. Some 6.5 million visitors expected around stadia in the United States, in Mexico and Canada. Some 1.5 million in the United States alone. So this is going to be a logistical exercise at the time that the FIFA World Cup is actually not the only focus in the United States. You have something called the NBA Finals, Blaine. The New York Knicks are up against the San Antonio Spurs. And trust me, if you're a New Yorker or a Texan, that is your focus just as we approach the FIFA World Cup 4 days out. So lots going on in the United States, not only soccer, but certainly lots of momentum and the wind at our backs as we head into Thursday's opening game between Mexico and South Africa in Mexico City. And of course, a repeat of that game 16 years ago in South Africa at Soccer City where they drew 1-1.
There's an interesting dynamic this time around, Shaun, with regards to a host nation currently being at war. We saw Iran Iran arriving in Tijuana today. I wonder to what extent has this big sporting event become almost a soft power contest between the warring countries?
Well, they'll have to get to the knockout stages for that really to happen. I'm sure there are many people in Iran and many in the United States that might want to see, them go head to head on the pitch, but that will only happen if they progress to the knockout stages. But there is obviously this veneer of geopolitics that is very present here. The Iranians were complaining today that they have not received all the visas that they wanted. The State Department putting out an issue that they're not going to allow quote unquote terrorists into the United States. Anyone with links to the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps, according to the State Department, would not be allowed to enter the United States, even though they have links to the World Cup team. Whether that's true or not remains to be seen. But the Iranian state media saying that 15 officials, Blaine, including the Iran Football Association President Mehdi Taj, have so far been denied visas. And understand that both their games are going to be, all three of their games are going to be in the United States. They were initially supposed to have their base camp in Tucson, Arizona. They changed that due to the logistical difficulties they were experiencing in the United States to Tijuana, Mexico. That team has now arrived, but it is still going to be a very difficult exercise on match day for them to have to fly into the United States, play their games, and then return to Tijuana. And also understand FIFA rules here. The team manager has to hold a press conference in the city where the game is going to play the day before. So what does that look like for the Iranian team? It doesn't look like it's going to be possible. So lots of unknowns about how this actually is going to play out. And spare a thought for the players that will have to fly on match day, play a game, and then have to return to Tijuana. Not an ideal situation for the Iranian team.
You know, Gloria, this is not only a physical game, but it's a mental game as well, right? There were some issues with regards to Bafana, delayed in getting to Mexico. I wonder how the team players can process all of this in terms of separating the off-the-field issues from on-field performance. Gloria, if you can unmute.
Good evening.
There we go.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I think we have a bunch of players that are absolutely resilient, and one has seen how they've grown over the years, and these struggles are what really drives this team maybe to better results or to try and get a good result and get a good footing. But we have a team with the psychologists that are there to help them to deal with situations of this particular nature. So I think Bafana is ready to go. They put these things behind them. We know there's usually issues before such tournaments, and it's nothing new anyway.
Yeah. Kaniso, I wonder if there is an impact on performance, though, in terms of the delay getting to Mexico. Are we past that at this stage, or are you still concerned that this might have an impact in terms of the opening stages?
Good evening to everyone. Look, that can only be determined by what transpires on Thursday, because the friendly they played against Jamaica, or the training game that they played against Jamaica yesterday in particular, was not televised. I mean, Bafana are having a press conference later this afternoon, Mexico time, so they'll probably be in a position to explain whether they've adjusted well, what they need to do to adjust better. I mean, Mexico City in particular is 2,000 meters above sea level, which is higher than a lot of places in South Africa, barring Dahlstrom, where a lot of the Comrades Marathon guys train, but there's no football facility in Dahlstrom to sort that particular matter out. And we've seen in rugby in particular the role that altitude plays. So whether South Africa have adapted well enough or not can only really be determined on Thursday. But again, the fact that they left so late is again an administrative bungle that is quite shameless from the South African Football Association. I mean, there's a squad announcement on the Thursday, there's a send-off game on the Friday, there's a send-off party at the Wanderers on the Saturday, and then on the Sunday, jiggy, there are now players and officials whose visa documentation isn't sorted. So you have an on-field and off-field issue that ideally should be sorted, and that plays a big role in delaying the team leaving, robbing them of an extra day of acclimatizing in what is a country that's not passionate about football, but it's not easy to play football if you haven't adapted very well.
I wonder how many South Africans, Sherwin, are heading to your side of the world. There were some talk, one of the talking points in the build-up to this was the issue of the ticket prices. What's the very latest with regard to that?
Well, I don't know the number of South Africans, Blaine, that are coming, but if they are, the exchange rate is 16.50 or something to the dollar. So it's going to be very expensive no matter which South African you are. Some obviously have more means than others, but this is going to be a very expensive exercise. So focal, a big focal point of this World Cup has been the ticket prices, has been the FIFA initially stating that they were inundated with requests for tickets. We understand that tens of thousands of tickets still remain available. And so this is not, as Gianni Infantino said at the beginning of this process, that this was going to be a sold-out World Cup. That hasn't happened yet. And of course, you have the most cheapest tickets at around $60, a few hundreds of those. But, if you look at some of the estimates for the final $30,000 for a ticket, they have these resale websites where a ticket is listed for $2 million. One imagines that that's an investment for, someone hoping to make a lot of money once the final is decided in terms of the teams that will be showing up at the MetLife Stadium here in New Jersey, New York. But the attorneys general of the states of New York and New Jersey have launched an investigation, have subpoenaed internal documents from FIFA, trying to understand how these ticket prices have become so inflated. It is the most expensive ticket prices for a FIFA World Cup in the history of the tournament. They apparently some people have purchased tickets and they've not been allocated the categories which they purchased for, and so they want to understand how that has happened. They also say that between October 2025 and April 2026, FIFA raised prices of 90 of the 104 World Cup matches by an average of 34%. So there's really wanting to understand why this is so expensive. And that's just one element. A ticket is one element. It's the visas that cost money. It's your accommodation that costs money. It's your transportation costs that cost money. To fly anywhere in the world right now costs much more than it did before the Iran war at the end of February this year. So this is going to be an expensive exercise for anybody, not just wanting to attend a FIFA World Cup, but all the permutations that go around something like that.
Right. Look, if you don't have a ticket, SABC, as you know, will have you covered with all the matches. Let's get some audience reaction now with regards to the upcoming match this week. Bafana, big game against Mexico, opening game. Expectations?
Thank you, sir. My name is Mzomhle Olutubanins. I'm from Soweto. Back in 2010, our first game was against Mexico.
Yes.
And we went there because we were hosters. We did not qualify. But at this point, we went there because we qualified. So I think at this point, we have a kind of a new style of play. We need to encourage our boys, and we need to support them across the country. We need to paint our country yellow and green. Yes. There must be no division. There must be no the lamtutu tendencies. We must put those things aside. If you did not win the local cup, it's fine. We'll see next season. Right. So all I'm saying is that we must just support the boys.
Right. No doubt. Talk to me about your expectations. Your name?
Tebucho from Soweto Zola. Look, I agree with the gentleman. I mean, this is the first World Cup we've actually qualified for since 2002. Yeah. I mean, we have a generation of kids growing up that has never seen South Africa in the World Cup. So no matter how much you think we're going to fail in the World Cup, I do encourage that, we go out there, support the boys, and Bafana, those guys.
Look, it's going to be a tough one. I wonder what would be a successful World Cup campaign for South Africa in your point of view.
Sure. A successful campaign for Bafana would be to actually make it out of the group stages, because in 2010 we didn't make it out of the group stages, and also we finally qualified for the World Cup on merit, not because we're hosting. So there's a lot of issues that we saw with the Bafana squad in the previous campaign in AFCON, and we are looking for improvement going into the World Cup. So we are, however, going to face a South Korea that is very pacey. We are facing a Mexico that is ranked way above us, in in the FIFA World Rankings. And we're also facing a Czechia who have a lot of height in their squad compared to our boys. So it is going to be very challenging. But it's not something that Bafana Bafana have not come across in other international competitions. So I would say just making it out of the group stages.
Do you reckon we're going to get that public holiday?
I think we do. We will, because the team is a team full of confidence. Because if you check the team, the 26-man squad comprises of 16 players. 8 of them from Mamelodi Sundowns. They just won the CAF Champions League. That brings a lot of confidence into the squad. 8 of them are Orlando Pirates players who just won the treble, including the Petro Premiership. So I feel like the confidence there is enough to push the boys and the squad. And then you've got Mbogazi, Olutumakanya, who've been playing abroad. They are already acclimatized to the environment. All those things combined, they will help South Africa, Bafana, to push through to the knockout stages, as my sister has said here.
Gloria, let me bring you into the conversation. Given the countries that we are facing and given the circumstances and the build-up to this World Cup, what's realistic? What's Bafana's realistic chance in this tournament?
As mentioned, I think one's really got to try and hope that they get into the last 16, which would show an improvement. But I'm not as optimistic, because when you look at the preparations, we haven't really had much preparations. And if you go, to our previous World Cup preparations, there was a camp for almost a month. There was some credible opponents we played against in preparing for this big tournament. Right now, when you look at the preparations, we're playing against Nicaragua, we've played against Panama, and also Jamaica. I don't think that we've really seen a Bafana team that one can be confident about. On the local scene, yes, as the gentleman mentioned, that we've got a bunch of winners in terms of the Mamelodi Sundowns players, 8 of those, and the Pirates players. But I think on the international stage, it is a big ask. When you look at that group alone, Bafana are the lowest ranked within that group. And when you look at Mexico, in the last 10 days or so, they've played top countries and managed to really execute wins. It looks bleak. It looks bleak because also when you look at the form, in the last 5 games Bafana have played, they have not won a game. They've had 3 draws and 2 losses. And that, for me, is concerning when you look at the confidence that you're expecting to go into a competition of this magnitude. It's really going to be a big ask. So, as much as we would want them to improve from the previous outing, I don't think so. We'll be lucky to get out of the group.
Kaniso, do you share that expectation, given the recent history and the build-up to this? Could Bafana be a surprise package for the 2026 World Cup?
Look, it will take a lot for them to get out of that group, simply because when you look at also the teams that they're playing against outside of the rankings, these aren't teams that South Africa would ordinarily be able to raise themselves for. I mean, one of my colleagues made a very good example of what transpired in the Japan South Africa national women's team game, where an Asian team, for example, isn't a team that if you were to put South Africa against a big side, they would put up a performance that is worthy of them being a South African men's national team, simply because of the stature of their team. And one of the examples, and this colleague was actually at the 2000 Olympics in Miki Chabalisa. He was there in Brisbane when South Africa beat Brazil. Brazil that had Ronaldinho, a very good side. Then they lost the game that it could have got them into the quarterfinals in Canberra against Slovenia. So, and remember that Slovenia wasn't even a country that was probably 10 years old at the time. So it becomes very important to see how does South Africa manage their emotions. I won't be surprised if they escape with the point, if not a surprise win against Mexico, simply because of the occasion that they face. Because if there's one thing that a South African team can and will do when the backs are against the wall, is to rise to the occasion. However, though, you realize that getting out of the group will also involve taking points off a Czechia side that is its first World Cup in 20 years and will be angling to prove a point. And there's a South Korean team that are regular World Cup representatives, a well-drilled side with players playing around the world. So And I mean, even if you look at where South Africa finishes, if they finish first, which is probably the most unlikely scenario, they'll still face a strong side. If they finish second, they're going to face the runners-up of Group B, which could be a strong side. If they finish third, they've got either France, Belgium, or Senegal that they need to face in the round of 32.
Right. We shall see, which is, as you know, three of the most loaded words in geopolitics as well as sports. Kaniso, thank you so much indeed. Showed Bryce, Peace, Gloria. Thank you very much indeed for your expertise, your better minds on this. Also to our audience here, both on the immigration issues as well as Bafana's opening match. Thank you so much indeed. All right, before we go, here's my take. For a nation that last graced the World Cup on merit, in the early 2000s and then returned in 2010 as host, South Africa's appearance at the 2026 tournament feels less like a comeback and more like a statement, one would say. Yeah, standing opposite host Mexico in the opening match is, it's going to be a daunting task, daunting assignment. But football, as you know, has a habit of rewarding belief as much as pedigree. The travel delays may have dominated headlines, yet they have also handed Bafana an opportunity to write a different story, one of resilience rather than excuses. If history remembers South Africa's previous World Cup chapters for participation, this one has the potential to be remembered for ambition. Against a passionate Mexican crowd, Bafana will carry, no doubt, the hopes of a nation eager to prove that its footballing future is bright. And that's my take. If you miss anything on this program, then be sure to watch this episode of It's Topical on YouTube as well as SABC Plus. Until next week, my brothers and sisters, take care. Bye-bye.